And we won't feel that. We won't feel that if we're already full of other things. So that's one thing we have to take into consideration. Now, when it comes to diet, how many of you guys really care about health and fitness and all that stuff? Any hands? Okay. So, when it comes to diets, our world has kind of shifted the original definition of a diet. A diet, when you think of the original definition, it's a way of life. That's the original definition of a diet. But in our society, a diet is a 21-day program that you do. And then after the program is done, you want to see how much weight you lost. And you feel really good about yourself. And it's really easy, because it's fast. And then you get off that program. And then you gain even more weight after you're done. So you have to go on another program, another diet. You starve yourself and you're just eating salads and drinking water and stuff. All your friends are eating what you want. And you have to sit there in a corner and not look at what they're eating. Like a diet. It's crazy. A diet. You lose weight. You lose weight and you're really satisfied. You get off the diet. And then the weight comes back. But the original definition of a diet is a way of life. So when you're trying to really make a change, you have to change your lifestyle. That's the original intent of what a diet is. It's changing your lifestyle. It's not a temporary thing. And we do this in our spiritual walks. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go on this youth retreat. I'm gonna go to this evangelistic series, and hopefully that will give me as much as I need to last for the rest of the year. That'd be good. A diet, a temporary thing, but it needs to be a lifestyle. It needs to be something you do regularly. Because the weight, like the young girl, the lady said today, we carry baggage. That baggage is going to come back. If you keep relying on it being a diet and not a lifestyle change, the baggage is going to come back. It'll just be temporary, and you don't want that.
Who here thinks that their phone has the longest lasting battery? Wow, how many hours do you think, roughly? 17? That's really good. That's awesome. My phone doesn't last that long. My phone lasts like 10 or 12. But what's the key to making sure that your phone doesn't die? You have to charge it. Every day you got to charge it, right? That's not what Jesus is saying about our spiritual life. No. Jesus says, if anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered. Your phone doesn't deteriorate if you don't charge it. It's still there. You just got to plug it in eventually, right? No. Those who are not connected with Christ in this world, the type of world that we live in will literally wither. Spiritually, emotionally, physically. I have seen the effects of those who are disconnected from Christ, whether that's because of circumstances, whether that's because it's a choice, or whether that's because it's never been offered to them in the first place. And they walk around with the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they are withering. And Jesus is offering us an alternative. Stay connected with me. That is the first thing that you need to abide. The second thing that we need to abide, connection and time. Verse 4, Jesus is saying, abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me. Okay, Vanessa, okay, I get it. I need to be connected and I need to have time. All right. I'm going to go home today and on my break or tomorrow morning, and I'm going to spend some time in the Bible and spend some prayer, 15 minutes. It'll be good. And that's a great start. Nothing wrong with that. But the key to growing fruits, and especially with grapes, is time. You don't just wake up the next morning and the tree is planted in your backyard. And in fact, with grapes, with what Jesus is using as an analogy, it's very interesting. I know nothing about gardening, absolutely nothing. Never done it, never will. I just like to go to Walmart and get my fruit when it's already grown by somebody else, okay? So grapes, after doing some research, if you want to grow grapes in your backyard, you have to set up all the stuff. It's kind of an intricate plant to grow. But what was super interesting, the website said you shouldn't let the plant bear fruit until about 3 years. So if you see that it's bearing fruit, you need to cut and prune it. Why? Because the actual branch and the vine is not yet strong enough to hold the fruit. Its roots are not deep enough, and its vines are not strong enough that if it were to bear fruit, it would fall over and it would die. 3 years. That's a lot of time. But that is what Jesus is saying to us. Time is a requirement in order to abide. There's no such things as microwave devotions, all right? I love popcorn. Pop it in the microwave for about 3 minutes, 2 minutes, done. I got my snack, 25 calories, all right? It doesn't work that way. If you want a deep connection and roots with Jesus, in order to abide, you have to have time. And it doesn't always have to start out with an hour every morning. But 15 minutes, 10 minutes is not really enough. And there has to be a standard. I don't want to just stay up here and say, yeah, if you got 10 minutes, just give God your 10 minutes and that's it. God deserves all our time. And I'm talking to myself here too. But at least what is required for us to have deep roots is time, an ample amount of time to sit and to listen and to be and abide with Christ. Let me tell you my experience with this, okay? I grew up as a PK. I was in church all the time. I was born in church. Well, I was born in a hospital, but then they brought me to church right afterwards, right? So I was all the time in church. I went to church like 4 times a week, involved in everything, singing and acting and whatever you can name it, and I loved it. I didn't resent it at all. But I confuse doing things for God with knowing God, right? So I'm in it all the time. That must mean that Jesus and I have a relationship. And so when I would take time, it would be like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, read a verse, pray a little, highlight it. If I highlighted it, that really got me merit, right? So I highlighted it and then I would go off on my day and that would be it. Freshman year at Southern, by the way, shameless plug, you all should go to Southern. It's a great school. So I was on CM my first year, campus ministries, and they take you on this retreat with a bunch of people who are super happy, and that's great because I'm happy too, but like they were like really, really happy. And then they were like, all right, on the first day, I know no one, and I've not done any of the exercises that they've, done in the past. They say, all right, we're going to give you an hour and a half, 90 minutes. I don't even know how many seconds. Somebody who's good with math can do that. To spend with God by yourself. No groups, just you and God. And people around me, yeah, high five, let's go. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have never spent that much time with God before. I don't even know what it would look like. How do I talk and spend time with a person that I don't see? So I didn't have a choice. So I went, and it was absolutely amazing. That week, I realized that God is near. God will speak, and he is so, so, so real because I gave him time. Time is the key.
And just to piggyback off of what she was saying, time is important. And when she talks about devotionals and different things like that, I once heard a pastor say, I never pray longer than 20 minutes, but I never let 20 minutes go by without praying. It's a constant thing. It's a constant thing. You can talk to God throughout the day. You don't have to have this long essay that you read every time to God when you need to talk. Just talk to him. You're on the road. Listen, God, I'm praying for safety right now. People are crazy on the road. Just be with me. About to take a test. Listen, I studied. I did my best. I pray, God, you can be with me. Just talking with him. Just like you would talk with a friend. Don't try and make it feel like it's so formal and that if you don't have anything good to say, you don't want to say anything at all. Talk with him. Talk with him like he's a friend. Talk with him like he's a family member. Do it regularly. Get used to doing it. But like she said, it also takes time. My experience, because she came from that, retreat, and I was doing gymnastics at the time, so I wasn't really interested in God or the church and ministry. So she came back and she's like, Jamil, we need to spend 3 hours with God. What in the world? Like, I pray in the morning and like I read from the Bible app. Like that's pretty much it. What are you talking about? Yeah, we're gonna go out in nature and we're gonna spend 3 hours with God. Now, for those of you who don't know me, like, I don't mind looking at nature. I think it's nice, but I don't like when the bugs are just hitting me in the face and the leg. Like that distracts me. I can't think about God in that moment. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So she took me out in the middle of the woods, and we were just sitting there, and she's just sitting there smiling, like just looking up. And I'm sitting there, bugs are hitting my shins, thighs, my shoulder, and I can't really think. I'm really trying. I'm trying not to be, that person that's a party pooper. And finally, I just look over at her and I'm like, we're different. We're different. So is that okay for me to like spend time with God in a different way than you spend time with God? Like we're different people. And we've learned in our relationship that the time that we spend with God looks really different. Like for me, I may just have to sit in a space that's quiet and no one's around and just spend time with God. I can hear a message from God when I'm driving. I can hear a message from God when I'm getting ready for school, when I'm brushing my teeth. I've gotten so many like sermon illustrations from brushing my teeth. It's really weird. But then I'll spend time, by myself, really focused, like how Vanessa does, and I don't necessarily hear anything. So we're different, and that's okay. All of us are different. So just because you have one friend that communicates with God one way, doesn't mean that you have to do the same. We're different, but it takes time. It took a long time for me to actually start knowing, like, oh, so this is when God is speaking. Okay, that makes sense to me. Because before, you never know. You just hear all the thoughts in your head. Then you start thinking about some random stuff. Like you spend time and you're like, oh man, I'm going to focus on God. I'm going to focus on God. Then all of a sudden, you're thinking about what you're eating tonight. Like, man, what's going on? Like I was really trying to focus. But that takes time. It's an art. You gotta work on it. It takes time. Speaking of time, I'm growing a beard for those of you who may think I'm homeless. I'm not. This is intentional. It's kind of patchy because I've never grown a beard before. But it takes time. Yeah, I'm not like Pastor Alex over here, where I just came out the womb with a full beard. That's not my story. But even for him, it took time. So I have to be okay with the process, and that's what it's like in your life. You have to be okay with the process. You have to fall in love with the process of getting close to God, because it's a process. It's not something that comes overnight. God's always there, but we have to really focus on listening and spending that time to get to know Him. It's like getting to know anyone else. When we got to know Erica, Melanie, and Alex, like it took time. We didn't just automatically know what kind of, people they were, and we could just communicate easily. Like, it takes time. With any relationship that we have, it takes time.
Most good things in life take time. And abiding with God is the best thing, but it does require a little bit of time. Connection, time, and lastly, growth.
Growth. This is normally the hardest topic for many of us. Because, we can focus on the time where we're just being connected with God. And then our time when we're just spending in silence listening to God. But the growing process is kind of rough. Growing process is rough. Because a growing relationship with Christ always leads to action. It always leads to action. I don't know one story where someone has had a growing relationship with Christ and they've just stayed stagnant or complacent. When you have a growing relationship with Christ, it always leads to action. Every single time. Read all about the different prophets and patriarchs in the Bible. It always leads to action. Because what God has to share with you isn't just for you. It's so you can share that with others. How many of you guys are familiar with Nike in here? With Nike, what's the slogan? Just do it, right? Just do it, that's the slogan. What if it was just want it? Just want it. Just want it, that's good enough. Don't do it, just want it. You know, what if when we had, sports outings and stuff and competitions, people just got trophies because they wanted it, Like, oh man, let's just give them the trophy. They didn't win, but they wanted to. You gotta respect that, right? They wanted to win. But we do that in our spiritual walks. We want things. We pray for things and we want them to happen. And then the minute God actually calls us to do something, we're like, oh, I don't know about that. I'd rather just want it. Actually having to do it, that's scary. But we have to do it. A growing relationship with Christ always leads to action. Always. Never fails. It will always lead to action. But this process is not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. We see that in verse 2. It says, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. You see, but this pruning process doesn't feel good. There's some pain that comes with the pruning process. And for a long time, the church, even though not everyone, but some people have struggled with the fact that just because you're a follower of Christ, doesn't mean you're never going to go through hard times. We like to preach prosperity gospel. Once you accept Christ into your life, everything will be perfect. You won't struggle anymore. You won't deal with anxiety anymore or be depressed. Your life will be perfect. And people come into the church and they're looking for that quick fix, and they